Is it our prerogative to censor because some things are just so bad? Or is exposure something that grows you? Or, do we allow this mass censor that the libtards want to push on us, with UN censoring the whole internet and all that deal?
Oh man, you want me to go off on this topic?
Censorship is bullshit.
We can definitely go off on this topic. It's just a matter of what level do you want to attack it from, or what level do you want to debate it from, because I can see both angles in a short, and then I'll let you pick. So I'll give you two options here. We can either take the tactic that censorship is needed, or we can take the tactic that censorship is absurd. Which way do you want to go?
I'd like you to argue that it's needed, and
yes,
I'll argue
I
that
would.
it's fucking absurd.
Okay.
I'll see if I can be middle ground. I'll probably be an asshole.
Okay. So I'm gonna argue that it's needed. Fjorn's gonna argue that it's absurd, and Uhtred's gonna
the worst of devil's advocate.
play devil's advocate. Lovely. All right. Well, welcome to Kelty Talks.
Kelty Talks. Kelty Talks.
Kelty Talks.
Guilty talks.
All right. Why is censorship needed?
Or not,
Oh, this doesn't matter.
because I disagree that it's needed.
Well, I think it's very much needed. In a world today where everything is progressing really fast, even though a lot of us conservatives don't want it to be. Not in the way that it has been. And I know a lot of you out there know exactly what I mean. Don't look past it too much. But censorship is needed because there's a lot of profane things out there. I don't need my kids seeing adult men's wieners from Mr. Wiener on their cell phones by accident. I don't need my children accidentally coming across a billboard on the freeway that's got titties all over it, and they're like, "Oh, mommy," and you're just like, "Oh yeah, don't look at that." Why is censorship needed? Because I don't need my children hearing on radio, free radio, curse words that, back 10, 15 years ago, you weren't hearing bitches on the floor, bitches on the floor. What is going on with today's media?
Well, I would argue definitely that you're wrong. First, and I'll try to refute your points. So if I get one, if I forget one, let me know. I'll argue that first of all, I think the first point was that we don't need. What was your first point? That we don't need censorship, or that we do need censorship because we don't want to see that stuff. But then don't show your kids that stuff. Why don't you use a personal app that can regulate your own personal views of those things? We have those readily available to us. If you don't like music on, put that pussy on the floor, then why don't you not show your kids that? Teach them a different value system, and then that music won't be so popular. Okay, and outside of that, everyone has the free right to say and do and be anything they want, should them not be hurting you. And if you teach your kids, if you having kids, and that's your argument, if you taught them the right moral compass, the second they heard something like panties, they didn't have to hear pussy, they'd realize this isn't something I need to be listening to, and they would turn it off. And if nothing else, they would obviously know their place in that, and that's not them, and they would not be relating to that, and it'd be something that they would not want to be. I'm sure there's lots of girls out there, like country music girls, that are not listening to put your pussy on the, rub your pussy on the back of the horse, rub your pussy on the back.
So it's not a censorship thing, it's actually a responsibility thing.
Absolutely.
The leaders of these industries, of either music, entertainment, to sports, all of it,
Yeah,
all
you
these
don't-
individual
you don't
leaders have
write
actually
into our
failed
Constitution
in upholding
amendment to
you know,
not
a
do
more
stuff.
righteous. I don't even want to use that word. It
If
seems
you give
too
them the
pious.
right to censor one thing, you just justified the right to censor everything.
But
Okay.
but it shouldn't be through written law. It should
what they're
actually
trying to
be
do to us
through
right now.
So,
it
fine.
should be through societal rule, unwritten rules.
I agree. There should be.
Oh, you agree?
Yes, I will. We're taking stances here. I mean,
You
my-
lost that one.
I'm
Did you
trying.
really just give up on that? That was quick.
I lost
lost
that
that.
one, but I'm trying to argue from a point of perspective that's
well,
not
I mean,
my.
I do see that
you know.
you don't have like it shouldn't be that all this degenerate. I don't know what you would call it. This fucked up pornography. These easy access. I mean, we were just watching Iggy Azalea, I think, on YouTube.
Yeah,
she's got
yeah.
that one
Just
video.
with her tits hanging
Let's
out. I'm like,
change your
that's
life now.
how is that a normal thing? This is a
Yeah,
normal
I
thing
think
throughout
so.
society.
Really nice boobs.
And she did
I
have
mean,
nice
dude,
boobs.
great
I
rack.
mean,
She was
Boobs
great
were
body, but
amazing.
that is
yeah,
And her hips,
completely
oh,
like the
God.
etiquette is so foul.
and I do like
I-
the song.
Should we
But-
censor this part of the video, guys?
No.
What?
So moving on because I don't believe in that kind of censorship.
We started talking about
Um,
Iggy Azalea's
Regulate your
boobs.
kids.
I like 'em.
You know, teach your kids a moral code, and when they
You
see
know, and
that
teach
stuff,
your
maybe
elders to actually
they'll
take
walk
better
away.
responsibility as well.
Don't drop your kids off at the mall alone.
Right. Don't
It's
drop your
just
kids off at the mall
Drop them at
alone.
the creek, man.
You know, do the old saying if
Take them out fishing, take them out hunting.
people try to offer you candy, or in this case, a cell phone, or maybe a stranger
Teach
tries to
them how to
offer
live
you
off
to
the
go
land.
Pokemon going with you, and you've never gone before with this person. Don't
them how
get
to
in
do
their
their
car.
taxes.
Like,
Yeah.
use your brain, teenagers.
Yeah, if you
Teach
live
them how
south
to,
of if
teach
you
them how
live
to
south of
invest in it. Teach
Chicago,
them actually how to
if you live south of Chicago and
economics
some
work
guy
in the
that
real life.
if you live south of Chicago and some guy that looks like R. Kelly rolls up on you, say no.
Oh my god. A
Okay.
white van with candy
So,
spray painted on the
another
side.
argument
That's
for
fucked up.
censorship. I'm going to throw another one
I
out there.
believe I can fly to
Yeah,
So-
jail.
pisses on.
To jail. He should go to jail.
Oh, no, he should be hung in
He's
the
a
public.
pedophile.
Yeah,
Like,
he
that
should
guy
go to jail.
be
He is a
literally hung in
pedophile.
public.
He is a pedophile. Pedophiles should.
No
I
guillotine.
know
No,
disgrace.
no, we're gonna put you out onto a
Pedophiles are
stage. We're gonna
gross.
put a rope around your neck and drop the levers.
Pedophiles are
that we-
nasty. Pedophiles are gross. So
How about pizza
another
tonight?
point of
that is so
another point
dis-
of censorship.
No.
So another point of censorship here.
That's fine.
I'm going to argue that censorship is needed for the simple fact that people are putting a lot of disinformation and unfactual stuff out there as if it was fact. How are people in this new age supposed to disdain truth from untruth when sources that are taken as fact are also putting disinformation out there? These places should be censored.
I would say you just hold those individuals accountable.
Yep.
And the problem goes the fuck away. You don't need censorship to solve that issue.
Like censorship
You need to
doesn't
go,
solve
yo,
any issue.
Mr. Franklin's over there raping girls. Well, my argument's we should censor the world then. Like, well then no one's gonna know Mr. Franklin's fucking raping people, okay?
Oh, dude.
Like, let's
Had-
just
how many
put Mr.
how many
Franklin
bodies
in
did he have
fucking
buried
jail.
under his house? What was it, over
Let's
100?
take his fucking pizza and hot dogs away.
Yeah, but think about it in this aspect of like flat Earth, for instance. You
Or
know,
mud flood.
or mud flood,
Tartaria.
or Tartaria. I mean, these are what some people deem as conspiracies, some people deem as fact. And this really hinders people's lives. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's interesting, and it's not just in one location. It's in many locations across the board.
Worldwide.
There's actually a norm for it now, which is interesting. But that's because, you know, there is this new age of an endless fountain of what seems to be information,
Dead end rabbit holes.
disinformation. So, where does the censorship come into in this aspect?
It's like spelunking into the center of the earth.
It's like splunking into the center of Plato's head.
Oh,
So, is it
man.
individual responsibility then?
It always breaks down to individual responsibility.
So, is it okay
Critical
to put
thinking.
disinformation out there in the name of art?
I think as mentioned before, it should be held accountable. If
Yes, it is okay.
So if it's held accountable, then there's a rule of censorship, right?
well, held accountable, but not in the court of law, it should be held accountable within the viewers, the people that actually determine what is legitimate content and what is not, as a mass.
Right, I agree.
So like someone like WikiLeaks or
I mean, I kind of agree. What you're saying is like, hey, if we all agree that this is real, that it's real.
It's a slippery
Uh,
slope. However, that is, you know, a better societal structure than written law of censorship.
It kind of is a form of censorship, utilizing the people's dumbness to pass that censorship off as legitimate.
So we're relying on our own social check and balances without any rule of regulation, which I think is okay. I'd rather have a social tribal
to-
knowledge of what's
to-
right and wrong than
To a certain extent, however, there's still a factor that most people don't consider, which is the more intelligent individuals that actually be leaders more behind the scenes, that don't they're not the face, they're the ones that actually control via psychological means, and so they actually can determine, they can change the public view. That's what's happening now. If you look at the propaganda through TV and through other social media, that's what's happening. I mean, YouTube's a blatant example of that.
oh yeah, you can see so much truth on YouTube, but you can also see so much just
Bullshit.
well, yeah, like stuff that's just streamed together,
Let's
just
just
made
call it
up,
like it is. It's
edited
bullshit.
Yeah.
crap. But you know, this also brings me into the aspect of like something bigger than YouTube, something bigger than just like Wikipedia being like a main source of a fucking dictionary nowadays. Like, what happened to go get a dictionary and now it's go to Wikipedia?
It's convenient to go to Wikipedia when you can just open your phone, push a little microphone.
What happened to
icon,
an encyclopedia?
talk into it, and she'll talk back. She'll even tell
Well,
you.
the
Oh, you
encyclo-
mean Sirius
Well,
is now the new wiki?
The
No, Google
encyclopedia is
Stalker.
actually on your phone.
Oh, Google Assist.
These black screens that everybody actually has, that, I mean, it's projecting literal light into your eyes. But it originates from this,
electronic source.
yeah, that comes from the ether. It taps into what we cannot see.
It's like fucking magic, huh?
It is almost like magic.
The phone.
Like, if you, imagine taking it back in time to, like,
Well, what we
fucking
call the
1500s.
phone, which is really like a multimedia device now.
Oh yeah.
It is a multimedia
device.
device, definitely.
Oh,
But it's also like a monitor bracelet too.
yeah.
You know,
Totally is.
like
Tracks your
everyone's
every
house
movement.
locked.
You know, it's kind of funny you say that too, because people will get devices and attach them to their wrists. Like, there's fucking
Next
that
thing you know, they're
monitor
gonna have
everything.
these collars. It's my new necklace.
Implants. You know it's gonna be implants.
I was
Implants?
checking
Oh,
out.
no
I
way.
mean, you're onto something here, though. I think I was checking out this fucking movement called Q movement, right? QAnon.
The QAnon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard of
He
them.
had some posts like recently, not about a month back or something, that were about Mark Zuckerberg and DARPA. And
Dude, Mark Zuckerberg.
what's
That
it
CIA
called?
operative.
What was that?
LifeLog.
LifeLog?
LifeLog.
Lifelog.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Facebook was actually a CIA project called LifeLog, and the day that LifeLog was forced offline by Congress as being unconstitutional and stealing data and all that, Facebook came up online, and apparently there's new documentation coming out soon, or is out now, I'm not sure, that's going to be proving this as true. What do you guys think about that shit?
I thought he was a robot or maybe a lizard
He
person.
fucking
I don't
acts like
know,
one,
man.
huh?
Like,
Like
he
he's-
is so weird.
He's the weirdest
Like
Jew
a
I ever met.
Manchurian candidate in a way.
Like there's some
Yeah.
like frequency of radio signal that he just somebody turns on and he just,
He's the perfect AI robot.
Well,
Like,
I'm just saying, if he acted
No,
like
who knows?
Seinfeld, he could totally get his way better.
yeah, but that's just
He's
conspiracy
so quirky,
talk. Like, that's
though,
just-
like-
on the real,
he's quirky.
on the real, I
Quirky?
think he
Yeah,
is
like-
two-faced.
He's, I don't know.
he's a fucker
Maybe
is what he is.
three-faced. I don't know. That is Mark Zuckerberg doesn't seem
Like
we can go
cultural
conspiracy
sellout,
talk all day
I mean,
long.
Well,
could-
you know, let's keep it though around censorship. So, like, I almost seem like the theme here has kind of changed where we started saying, like, when it comes to people and what people want to produce and put out there, we shouldn't necessarily be censoring that. And if you want to censor it from your kids, then maybe you should be a better parent and not let your kids, you know, have shitty morals.
Yeah.
And then it seems, though, that we have gone into the aspect of, okay, but we do have this mass media technology age. We do have a stream of information. We do have big players like Mark Zuckerberg and the government of FBI, CIA, ABC
George
government. I don't
Soros,
care
fucking
who it is.
Clinton
Look up your own
Foundation.
conspiracy and connections and dots to it. But now it seems like we're almost kind of begging the question of, well, should these ABC things be censored to the information that they're obtaining from us? Like, are we? Because, I mean, these, like you just, like Utra alluded to a few moments ago, like, people are wearing, you know, tracking bracelets nowadays.
Oh, like the
Um,
Fitbit.
Like the
Yeah,
Fitbit.
or like the
That's
I
amazing.
wrist thing, the like the iPod wrist or the iPhone wrist. What do they
Yeah.
call it?
Right. Like, I don't know,
Totally.
the smartwatches and
Smartwatch.
stuff.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like, I've even seen China's pushing smart rings out now. Like, you can wear a ring and it's just a
It's
smart
getting
ring.
smaller and smaller. It's
It
gonna
is
be
getting
a
smaller
chip.
and smaller.
I'm telling you.
It's going to be a chip, but, you know, no. And there has been a
Gradualism.
company, where was that
It's
company
It's
at?
that whole frog and
I
and
don't
boiling
remember
water,
where
you
that
know?
company was at, but it's in the United States where
Huawei.
they made it a rule that you can't even enter the building unless you receive the chip.
Oh, that place
and
is
then
like
that's more
Minnesota.
Europe.
People,
yeah.
no, it's here in the States, and
Really? Like
people
Minnesota?
No
actually,
shit.
yeah, some people like said, forget this, I'm gonna risk my job, and I'm gonna leave this company, I'm not taking the
Oh,
chip.
fuck, I just
But
got
a
chill
lot
up
of
my spine.
people
No, there's no
actually
way.
did
Nope,
it.
nope.
Yeah, just to get in and out of this building. Like,
Nope.
and I don't even think
No,
the
I'd
building's
quit.
like
I'd
this
walk
high
away.
tech, you know, building. It's not like something that needs mass security.
No,
It's like an AT&T. Or,
I've
I don't
lived in
know.
my
It's like
vehicle
something
before.
stupid.
I'd do it again just
It's
to
not-
avoid that. There's
Yeah.
no way I'm getting a chip
Dude, they
implanted in
get
my
these
body.
people
I would never.
thinking that it's like they're gonna transcend or some shit.
Like that's
they're
the
gonna
new.
get
No,
this chip
dude.
in the
Oh, but
head,
dude,
and they're
no.
gonna like be
And
so perfect.
But see,
Nigga,
that also
that is not going to happen.
Too
that,
much
that also goes back to the
micromanagement.
whole psychological manipulation,
Not going to
the
happen.
actual war of your mind. I mean, like
Yeah.
people don't understand
Yeah.
nowadays,
a war
especially
for
with the
your mind, huh?
technology we have, where everything's accessible right in the palm of your hands. Look at people nowadays; they hardly even look up. They look at their phones
Yeah.
constantly,
Yeah.
which means they're tapped into whatever sort. Like, you know that the people have created algorithms for what people get to see, what people get to hear.
Yeah.
Like,
Even this video will be shifted around in the ether because of some electronic algorithm that they've designed to force us up or down.
and you know the craziest part is this isn't even conspiracy. You can Google all of this yourself.
Right. This
Like,
is just
this is
campfire
Google
talk.
that will actually tell you.
This
Yeah.
is campfire talk. This is Kelty talk. You know, just sitting around a
Kelpie
campfire.
talks, chat side,
Yeah.
fireside chat.
This is real life, just what's on our mind as things are happening and
Friday
trending.
night,
So
the work week's over.
know,
we
Yeah,
want to sit and
it's-
talk with you.
nothing we say is deemed as we're saying it's factual. Nothing we say we're deeming as, you know, should be your opinion. But these are
your
our
own
profane opinions.
Nah, it should be.
But
You know what?
hey.
No, we need to manipulate your mind. Otherwise,
Right.
what's the
If it ain't your opinion, then you're stupid.
You know what? Maybe we should bring in some more.
It's your opinion, right?
Right.
Wait, is it your
Uh-huh.
opinion? Do you even control your own thoughts?
No, nothing's real.
Mark
Nothing's real.
Zuckerberg.
It's all gonna end.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg,
Facebook.
robots,
Robot man.
I think my phone just vibrated.
Oh,
do I
phantom
have a
ring?
no-
Did you have a phantom ring?
Yeah, it was a phantom ring. You know, because now psychologists have to make up new terminology for this modern.
Which I think
Event
some of
that's
these terms
happening.
are a placebo. They literally invent terms in order to have an effect on the population.
Well, you know, you should take this as actually a retrospect and go, wow, what else in history have they taken just due to the zeitgeist of the time to define something? Kind of like hysteria. Like, they made up the term hysteria just to
For what? For,
For-
housewives.
for housewives. Like, it was just a term to say, shut up, housewife.
By the
Like,
way,
you're crazy.
Oh, you know what? Heathen. That was a Roman term.
Heathen. I'm a proud
Yeah.
heathen.
Germany.
I mean, that it was literally almost like the term barbarian came from the Baba, like the language
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
was
barbar.
understood. Like it's crazy how we actually take and savage the way that term has been used and manipulated.
Savage. And
Like-
these terms are so negatively, like, at least that's how I perceive them, is that the culture takes these terms as triggered words.
Well, fag used to be a bundle of sticks.
Well,
It's
now
also it's a cigarette now over in.
Now
I
it's
think, like,
derogatory.
Yeah, would you like to go outside and blow a fag?
I think they would
Yeah,
rather be
oh,
called gay
you know
now
what,
than
I'm-
fag.
dart seems
love
like
blowing
an appropriate
fags.
one. Like it's.
I'm blowing a fag right now.
I mean, but you have other words that just.
I think people should stop being so sensitive.
Quit
Like,
wearing
why
a-
do you have to be a pussy? Just
quit wearing
accept
a-
who you are.
They should quit wearing a bow and bow.
Bow to my greatness.
It's the same word. It's the same word.
Yeah.
Bone bow.
Yeah.
Wordplay.
Wordplay.
Do we all understand what is being said here?
But you know,
No, I stand beside it, not under it.
Well,
let's
words-
get back though
especially
to
English language.
censorism. Or
Censorism?
censorism.
Censorship?
Blah, blah,
Are you
blah.
censoring me?
Yeah, I'm censoring you. Don't
I need my safe
mansplain me
space.
right
You know,
now.
like,
I'm triggered.
Oh no, here comes the king.
I need my
Here comes the
blanket.
king. Steal a couple eggs.
You
and
got
tell
my
me what to do.
snowflake blanket. Okay. So back to real talk, Kelty talk.
Kelty talk.
I read an article the other day about how maybe it was from QAnon actually that kind of got me on this trail. It may have been. Go check out the Q Pub board if you haven't been there before.
QMap.pub.
In a nutshell, it was something to the effect of how Mark Zuckerberg was really
Gay. And everyone knows it around him.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Oh wait, wrong.
Dude,
wrong
that
story.
guy
In the
looks
name
like
of art.
such a little bitch.
That
So-
one was good.
Got soft hands, don't you? bud?
Fjorn, back to the article that I was going to talk about, because this really has to do with China. So if we ever want to get to the part where how Mark Zuckerberg and China
Yeah,
are
he built this
related,
new
It was
algorithm,
Then-
Firefly. No,
Didn't-
Firefly
isn't
was
he
on
in the middle
Clinton.
of
What was
building
the-
some
is
algorithm
it like
with China?
Dragon?
Dragonfly.
Dragonfly?
Is that what it's called?
Dragonfire. Dragonfire.
That's what it's called?
Dragonfire or
That's what it's called.
Dragonfly?
Dragonfly is like a drone thing that the military created.
Okay, so maybe
Dragonfire
Dragonfire.
is, I believe, the program or the algorithm that Google created for the censorship in China, which they said, oh, we weren't creating that. And then somebody said, no, there's actual proof. They said, well, we thought about it, but it's not actually going to happen. So it's all just mumbo jumbo bullshit. They
By the
actually
way,
created
if
it.
you
It's
guys
being
are
used in the
wondering
US
out
and
there-
China.
Right, so, explain though, Uhtred, on what the actual effects, what makes this thing, this new project, different than what's currently out there for censoring keywords on like Google or in China, where censorship is really extreme as far as the government choosing what the people get to see.
Well, it's, I believe, a power that is not what either a small group or a single individual, like that's just a power that people shouldn't have, is directing the information that people are allowed to access. If you want to look up how to make your own wind turbine in your backyard, you can't actually do that because, one, there's too many laws, that
Won't even allow
they
you to
block you from doing
access
it.
that
Yeah,
information.
you're
Like
not
you can
allowed
almost
to.
get fined if you had one of these things
Almost.
on your
You
property.
can totally
You
get
can
Okay.
totally get
Yeah,
fined
let's
if you
not
make
be
that.
PC.
You
You would
can't
get
even put it-
fined.
You can't even put it on your own solar panel. You can look up actually how to do that in the United States. Fortunately, other countries not allowed to.
This shit's fucking tyrannical.
But in
You'll
the
have
United-
some
In the United States, I learned actually how to make my own
Ununiformed guy
solar
show
panels.
up.
I learned how to make my own solar panels using different types of wire. But the problem is that you can't install it in your own house to charge your own batteries or to do any of that because it breaks law.
So they're censoring us on many different levels than just not on. They're censoring us on the level of access to the information to even make the wind turbine, but they're also censoring us on the ability to make the turbine on our own property anyways. Because say you didn't even need to access the information, you already knew it, and you're like, I'm going to build a wind turbine on my property.
Right, 'cause you know
well,
how to
they're
do
going to
it.
censor you anyways
Well,
and show up and say, nope, you
listen,
can't have that.
Listen, you guys, it could be much deeper than what you're alluding to. It could be as deep as, and it is, and it probably will all come out in the future through this whole QAnon movement, what I'm about to say. So let's take your wind turbine for an example.
Okay.
So you go online, you're just some normal middle of the road American, you see a wind turbine. What you don't realize, maybe it's something weird about the American spirit or the environment of having free access to information, which I would be alluding to that as the reason. But you go online, you look on the YouTubes, you look on the Google images, you look on the thises and the that's forums, and you find out how to make a wind turbine. You're inspired and you go buy the material online, right? You're not going to waste time to do. You may go down to even go down to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy you some material. You'll get the rest of the stuff online, and collectively you'll get together everything to make this wind turbine. In 2006, YouTube kind of came mass. I mean, they've been online for a while, since like before the turn of the century, into the thousands. But in 2006, they like went mainstream, right? So from that point on, and we're using this wind turbine as an example, you get online, it's 2007, you get inspired, you buy you a wind turbine kit or buy the parts,
Yeah.
and you start putting shit together, right? There's no regulations saying you can't do it, so you're actually allowed
Not
to,
yet.
in America, you're allowed to do anything that doesn't specifically say in law you can or cannot do. So if it doesn't say you can't do it, then you're allowed to do it here in America. That's what actually makes us free. But so you're online, you look at your shit, you don't realize that DARPA invented the fucking internet in the first place. So you don't realize that since day one, they've had the technology to track not only your movements on that, but they convinced you to take a credit card and buy into the whole credit system using Keynesian economics,
Right.
instead of Hayek form economics, which if you don't know what that is, please look it up.
Keynesian and Hyatt.
Hayek form economics. It's a German model that was about saving in a nutshell, rather than having
Spending.
credit like we do in a Keynesian system like we have now. But so you go online, they're tracking every video you watch, and this is for every person. They're tracking every purchase you make through your credit card, whether it was online or whether it was at Home Depot, so they know
They track where you drive,
who
how
is
fast you drive.
inspired. They have data analytic professionals like myself that have master's degree in research, that academic research, that do heavy studies on these very same subjects, and we statistically analyze these subjects using inverse relationships, bootstrapping, and what's called ANOVA, so analyzation of variance and regression, to make predictions. And we decide, I'm saying we as in like the Department of Defense and DARPA and the Pentagon,
Like our ABC corporations
Right,
and
they
all the people that are also
absolutely have
using
been
these same
doing this.
techniques.
Maybe I'm a fucker for saying
Oh,
it.
even like
But
Mueller.
they've
the
absolutely
actual
been
data
doing
collection.
this, and they've absolutely been gleaning the information from this. And
Who's
they know,
the main leading in the programs for these modules? Oh, IBM.
yes,
That's right. They created all of the
yeah.
modules here. Aren't they the ones that also like had their hands in Germany and like during the
Oh,
whole?
yeah.
So maybe we
Yeah.
shouldn't go too far into
No,
that. but-
what was it?
Yeah,
There was
so,
a
I
video I
mean-
think I created about that. Oh gosh, I think it was
Wonder
Truth
why-
is Stranger Than Fiction or
Truth
something
is
like
Stranger
that.
Than
I think
Fiction.
that was one
So
of the
go to
titles.
Rogue
Oh.
Research channel on
Dude.
YouTube and check out Truth
Like
is
I
Stranger
mentioned,
Than
I
Fiction.
mentioned IBM, but
Yeah,
it-
no.
that
So-
started getting dark.
But
that
yeah,
was,
when you're going through college though, and you're learning, like, say you took a degree like research, for instance, a research degree in statistical analysis, then you're gonna come across things like R, or which is a program that you can use to input data to get output of normalities and curves, and where plotting information and take it from there. But you can
right,
also
you write your own
use
code to do it.
these fancy systems, which are easier to read and a lot less mathematical input that you have to actually manually put in.
Right.
But IBM created all of this stuff, and that's what's heavily taught is a SPSS IBM model. for statistical research, and they use this across the board.
Well,
yeah.
IBM's been around since the Nazi era. They've been all sorts of nefarious shit.
But
It
they're
was
also involved in this new computer era too.
right, and their whole thing was psychological manipulation.
To get back to what
Right.
I was saying, I mean, this is kind of heady stuff, but and I know that, and I'm sorry if it bores you or you don't like to hear it, but fuck you if you don't, because it has to be said.
Woo! Hit it, Fjorn.
They're definitely using this kind of thing. They're definitely using some, and it's kind of morphed over the years into something called geospatial intelligence, and you know, they use like conspiracy raps for like a present on things like Jane Helm and like stuff like that. But it's fucking absolutely true shit. What I'm telling, I mean, look up geospatial intelligence or cross me on any of the stuff I'm talking about if you don't fucking agree.
Cross-reference your own
Right.
research.
Don't
and do
just sit
your
there
own
and go,
research.
no, he's fucking full of shit. Why don't you actually fucking check me out? Why don't you actually, like, don't check me out like my butt, but check me out
Are you
like,
saying you don't like that?
no, like,
No.
cross my information. If you don't believe me, look it the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
Like, look it the fuck up. I encourage every single person that is watching any of our videos to look up
dude,
what we're
fact
saying.
check.
Totally. If we're
Absolutely.
wrong, man, and we don't answer you in the comment section, that's because we don't like you.
No.
No, I'm totally kidding. No, I'm totally
Don't leave a
kidding.
comment. We won't respond in our next video or anything in regards to it.
Yeah, no, I'm totally kidding. We will definitely address your issue if that's
Yeah.
what it is. If it turns into something like in
If
the
it's
comment
not-
And if
section
it's
that
actually
needs to get
provocative
discussed
enough,
again.
we might even be in a later video.
Right.
Right.
We'll
It may
make
be
a
a
video
whole
about it.
video about
In
that
and of
comment.
itself,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll totally make a video about how you're wrong.
Sometimes all gasoline needs is just a little spark. And
Right.
it just goes off.
Yeah.
Sparks make forest fires.
Don't get burned though in the process.
Forest fires change whole landscapes.
But if you do,
That's true.
just pick yourself up and move on. It's all about how you get up, not how you fall.
Wait, you know what? You
Right.
said
If
the
you tear your
forest.
pants,
You talked
so
about forest fire, and that actually was really funny about what happened in California with the whole campfire thing and PG&E and like that scandal, which is actually
Oh,
owned
using
by
the meters to
the Rockefellers or
like
the
surge.
Rothschilds.
Oh,
I think it was the
yeah.
Rothschilds
I
that actually
think
owned.
we
No, one of the
PG&E?
board members of PG&E in California is the Rockefeller.
absolutely.
Like Rockefeller,
Dude,
that's right.
And you can go right on PG&E's website and you can click executives, and he's like the fucking fourth guy down. Like they're trying to hide him.
So I have to pay
He's
PG&E
fucking
power
totally
bill.
there. His bio
It
and all
actually
that.
raised up. Not only are they not going to get in trouble for this, but they actually raised the rates on PG&E
Users,
members,
yeah.
in order to actually pay for the campfire. Complete extortion, and it was all of them that just lit an entire
Right.
town on fire.
I think on Profane News, there's like a do PG&E commercial video on there.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
totally
great.
making fun of this
You
issue.
guys
Oh,
actually
yeah.
have one of those? That would be.
Oh yeah, it was hilarious
I'll have
because
to- I'll have to
literally,
go through and scroll.
I don't
Yeah.
know if for those
noticed
that
you guys
don't
got
know
a
what
lot of
do
videos
is,
in
it's
there.
like direct energy weapons. But
It's like a
there's
satellite that'll just heat up the atmosphere right above
Wait
a
a
target
second.
and start it on
You
fire.
know, I think
But
there
go
was
check it out.
Seconds. It's laser weapons.
What was it,
definitely go in there and check it out.
I think
check out
Discovery
Profane
Channel
News.
actually had something about that future weapons. That's what it was.
Yeah,
I remember
absolutely.
way back
Oh,
in the
yeah.
day. But they used it for defense of missiles, of like ICBMs.
We
They
have
would
another
just laser
video.
there.
Profane News also has another video, one of its older videos, if you scroll down to its older videos, that definitely goes into that subject. It goes into that subject. They also have one that would be a good topic, and it would be the Stingray devices that the police have, and they don't really want to talk about, but they have them, and they're like the cell phone data scrapers that they sit up in the
Oh,
area.
man, I can't believe I haven't seen that yet. I'm gonna have to go through your guys' stuff and check it out. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So there's some heavier stuff that Profane goes over that probably got us a little bit censored.
Yeah,
YouTube.
Kelty
Google.
Talks may just get censored too, but
We have a feeling.
Dragonfire.
But we're gonna get into these topics
again,
because
censorship.
You
I
know-
mean, should we be censored though? Like, I mean, we just had a whole conversation about how censorship is just absolutely nonsense on the, Patreon level, but here it is where the patrons kind of feel like they, as the ABC corporations or whatever you want to call it,
and we're
government.
not talking our patrons. If you want to like and subscribe this and go to our Patreon.
Don't
That'd
like
be
and subscribe.
awesome.
No,
We're
don't
not
like
going
and
to force
subscribe.
anybody.
Yeah.
But if you want to
Avoid
hit up
that.
our Patreon, that'd be cool. Link should be down below.
All right, you guys should. You
But
guys
she
have a
means
Patreon?
Patreons of the federal government that really
No, I mean,
want to
like-
steal our lives away.
Yeah, I mean, like, the people, like,
Baby snatchers.
baby snatchers. Oh, don't even get me
Cartel.
on
Didn't-
CPS.
hey,
Cartel, Bethel.
Didn't DHS
DHS,
just like
CPS.
didn't one of those ABC DHS didn't it
It
just
was DHS.
separate itself
From CPS.
from CPS and the FBI's little CPS scandal
What's up
they
with all
got
these
going on?
acronyms, man? What
They're
the
the
fuck?
ABC
Child
companies.
Protective Services
We have
have been
we have
accused of
CPS,
stealing
FBI,
babies and
CIA,
trafficking them.
ATF, which is now
Or
the
missing them.
BATF.
The
Babies
NRA.
coming up
The
missing.
NRA,
The
IRA,
DNC.
DNC, RNC. Like
The
there are so many
RNC.
acronyms for just labels to change the illusion of what is actually going on.
The
Just made up
IRS.
names and words just to
Republican National Committee
Mm-hmm.
or Conference. One of the
Nope, committee.
which I mean
DNC would be the Democratic National Committee.
Uh-huh.
The
Yep.
FBI
National
is the
Rifle
Federal Bureau
Association.
of
Bureau of
Investigation.
Investigation, right? CIA is
The
Central
IRS.
Intelligence Agency.
Intelligence,
NSA is National
Mm-hmm.
Security Agency.
Agency.
You also have ICE,
which is the biggest of all of them.
Oh gosh, whatever. And then you have Customs. You also have.
ICE is Immigration and something Enforcement.
Do you guys know swatting is actually a thing?
What?
Swatting?
Swatting.
Like swatting flies?
Like to swat?
No. It's
What is
so
this, like
it
swatting a
was
girl's
it was
butt?
more of it like people that did live streams
Grab
and
her in
like
the pussy.
it was.
Grab him by her
No.
pussy.
Swatting is when somebody actually calls a SWAT team on your location. Like, say if you were live streaming,
Oh, like
doing
that
game-
gamer.
Right.
I totally seen
It's
that
actually,
video.
It
How
was actually a
fucked up.
thing. I was going through this
Scared the shit out of that young
this
man.
criminology course, and like I was in order to get a
Some
degree.
wood on that fire.
Here's a log right here. In order to get this degree, I went through the criminology course, and they were talking about it as as an actual thing. That SWAT would be called on people's locations for, quote unquote classified things, but in a sense, they would be called for drugs. They would be called for people that were there's somebody that's being held captive inside, gun things, and it's actually gotten really risky where people have even gotten shot because of this whole swatting thing. So now the law enforcement is being used as a
So you're running a live. You're running a
So you're
live.
running a live stream, and
About-
some
like
asshole,
something
somebody
like-
somewhere else can actually call a SWAT team.
So you're
on
doing
you
a Call of Duty live stream, and you're like,
Just to watch the whole
just to
thing
destroy
go
your,
down
just to destroy your
live.
life.
you're playing some video game where you're shooting people.
Yeah,
And then the door gets
you'll even
kicked
have
in
your
and
headphones
SWAT
on and
shoots you, you're
everything.
dead.
Nothing's going on. You're just and all of a sudden people kick in your door and you still have no idea because you can't hear shit, and they come in, fucking throw you down. You're just,
Get on
can
the
you imagine
ground.
just
You
like
don't
sitting there in
respond.
your
and they
chair
fucking
and just being
beat you up.
tackled? Like what the fuck?
Dang.
What a fucking
And that's an
serious
actual
crime.
that's an
That's
actual thing.
crazy. Have you seen some of the
Talk about proof.
Crazy some of the shit that I learned through that my criminology
It's a police
courses.
state.
Yeah.
That's every law they pass, regardless of what it looks like right away, based on your emotional state, is walking you to a police state.
Really, laws are actually censorship of life.
You show
Yeah.
me. Yes.
Yeah, you have freedom
Yes.
of everything that's not written in law.
Like,
a law is
how
what
does that make
restricts
sense?
you.
How are people comfortable with laws in general?
Well, and people try to fight for their rights too. Like I
So
hate
let me ask
the
you
movements
guys a
of fighting
question
for
that might
rights.
be
I think
kind
it takes them away.
All right, go ahead and shoot.
But yeah,
Let me ask you a
Bjorn.
question that might be a little profound.
Okay.
Do you think there's an inverse relationship between the amount of laws
You
we
get
as a
that stick on fire.
society establish and population?
Do you think? Okay, I just want to repeat this out loud to make sure that I understood correctly.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a inverse relationship between the amount of laws versus the
Or an
amount
adverse relationship?
of
So
people?
they both go up. As one goes up, the other goes up. As one goes down, the other goes down.
So as the amount of people go up, so does the amount of laws, and vice versa. as
Governing those people, yes.
Okay.
And as the amount of population goes down, it becomes unnecessary. So the
I mean,
amount
I
of
guess I
laws
could
can
see
be less.
from a philosophical perspective that it would be a natural reaction of humans to try to keep our resources. So, say for instance, I had a pile of cheese, and that pile of cheese was all of my resource. It was
do
worth
like cheese.
millions and millions of
I think all white
other
people like
cheeses.
cheese.
Like, it's cheese.
You guys are white. Do you like cheese?
I love cheese.
I
I
love
love
cheese.
all
Okay,
kinds
so that's
of
Give
three.
me
cheese.
That's
extra
3 out of 3
cheese.
white people like cheese. So that must be a fact, right?
Sure.
No.
It won't. I mean, it's our
It's a
fact.
fact in this group.
It's
but
our
not
fact
a
in this
fact
group.
As a whole,
Oh, so statistics
Because
can
there's
be taken
probably
out
a-
of context then.
Absolutely. Most statistics don't even apply to us.
So you have a pile of cheese.
Okay, so say I have a pile of cheese, and I have fear that if I have a big population, my whole goal, my one and only goal is to make sure that that pile of cheese stays big. Like, it stays a big pile of cheese. I want endless cheese. Like, that's my whole goal, is to just have endless cheese. I don't want to lose the cheese.
Cheese on my broccoli.
But if I
cheese on my
have a
chicken.
lot of kids that also like cheese, then eventually my cheese is going to dwindle, or I'm going to have to work harder to get more cheese, or I'm going to have to make them work harder to get more cheese, which in essence is making me have to put in effort to get more cheese. Whereas before, I didn't have to put in much effort at all. I just had all the cheese that I wanted. Thus, I feel that in this instance, the laws and the people are kind of like that check and balance. Yeah, that like the people, as they grow, have tendencies to eat the cheese. And the law is what restricts or tries to prevent the people from eating the cheese too fast. Because the cheese is going to get eaten. I mean, the people all love the cheese in this situation. I mean, there's probably tons of YouTube people out there that
it
don't like cheese.
It is a cheesy object to start off of. But
If that was a really cheesy allegory.
I bet the mice are just pissed off right now.
you know what?
House mice.
I wonder how many people watching this, now that we've said cheese about 30 times,
They're hungry.
they want some cheese.
I could go for some cheese.
I
would go
wonder
for some
if
cheese.
YouTube is going to show this to people who like cheese because
do a
it
cheese
likes
commercial
cheese
right
so
here?
much.
Because they're like totally listening, so they'll do a cheese commercial.
You'll
right
know if they're going to be like, cheese, like you're smiling.
Yeah.
Or
Take
like-
a picture. Yeah.
here.
Right.
Kraft, the American brand, made in China.
Tillamook.
Cheese on my hamburger, cheese on my broccoli, cheese on everything, man.
Tillamook, Oregon cheese, made in China.
Oh, dude, fondue cheese. Oh, man.
Man, yeah, no, cheese is really good.
You know those little bell
Ooh,
things?
I like pepper jack.
Oh, pepper jack. Yeah.
Moonstone.
What
love
are those little like
cheese.
wheel
Moonster.
things? What are those little?
Moonster, that's what it's called.
What are those
sorry.
little wheel things? Like those
Moonster.
I don't even know what they're called, but they're like wrapped in wax and like
I like goat's cheese
I like those too.
I can't remember what they're called, but usually like
The
they're
red
in
waxed ones?
Yeah, yeah.
Peel 'em
so
open and eat
good,
'em?
dude. String
Ooh.
cheese.
Cheese.
Like I would
Cheese
fuck out of
and-
cheese.
Cream cheese is good.
Okay, so
Anyway,
our cheese rant.
Cream cheese on bagels. Ugh.
Throwing some bacon in there, bacon and cheese.
Yeah,
Okay, so
bacon cream cheese. Yeah.
again, back to our American farmers and how we need to keep our cow and pig
Oh,
production
absolutely. I
up
love being
because
American.
we not only like our
Fuck.
meat, but we also like the byproduct too.
I mean, you know what? I know how much methane they're producing on a day-to-day basis. I drive through cow areas
my
sometimes.
gosh.
Like, it stinks, man. It genuinely stinks, especially in summer. But you know what? It's not doing anything more than say a volcano does in half of an eruption.
I
Like,
mean,
we
what are they
wait,
trying
cows
to
are talking
justify?
about cow farts?
Yeah.
yeah, you wanted to talk about cow
You're
farts
talking
a while
about
ago, so-
cow manure? Like, there's whole villages in Africa that use that shit.
Yeah, that's so
Imagine
gross.
what their houses smell like.
How can you live that way?
Like, you have
like,
poop walls and shit.
you, dude, like, okay, you were surrounded
It's
by
like
dirt.
100 degrees
You were
outside.
surrounded by
You
dirt
got
and
fucking
clay.
poop
Make
walls.
stone walls.
Oh
Like you
my
were.
god.
You're not even around trees. What the fuck are you living in that area for? What the fuck?
It used to be lush.
Then
Now
move.
there's only
Then
booze.
move. Like, it's not that hard.
Again, back to the climate of mass migration. This isn't the first time in history that
Won't be the last.
we've
either.
migrated, or people have migrated.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely not.
But do we have to accept what, and what do we do as a nation
Or even as
to
an
make
individual.
sure that during this migration that's happening, that we make it to the next 20, 30, 40 years as a strong American nation? You know, we are coming up to 2020. This is a really pivotal point in
Seems like
in
things
history.
are becoming more like the Republican Party is becoming nationalist, and the Democratic Party is becoming socialist, and then there's going to be this big battle between the brand new brands of Americans, the nationalists.
I don't think
versus
there's
the
going to be
socialists.
just two. Just the same as it was similar to when Russia, when
Well,
communism
just like in
took
Europe,
over.
they'll have a bunch of other ones.